One of the things that I love about that book is the story that you told about the walking or driving down the street and the person on the sidewalk and you don't know their backstory, right? You know.
Oh yeah, no, I started off a section with that story. Yeah, I'm driving down the street close to my house, and a dude just jumps up in the air and falls down backwards. And I see it out of the corner of my eye, and I'm like, that looks bad. That looks really bad. Like you can just feel it in your gut, like something that's bad. I slow my car down. I'm like looking, trying to figure out what's going on. I'm like, yeah, that dude is like, you see his feet sticking out of the sidewalk. Like that dude is laying on the sidewalk. I better turn around here. And I'm like looking for a spot to turn. And like this dude just lays on the horn behind me, just blaring techno music, like black car, tinted windows, neon lights underneath the car, just blasting the worst like techno music ever. And it's just like honk, honk. It rolls up beside me and literally flips me the bird and is like, again, PG or PG-13 or R, fuck you, man, get the hell. Like, and it's one of those things that I feel like referees, I called it the Zen honk. I have it happen all the time to me, by the way. In Seattle, we have all these bike lanes.
Yeah.
So how many times, I don't know if you've seen this before, like there'll be like a row of cars to make like a left-hand turn. And there's a bike coming. So you're like, okay, I'm not going to turn, because if I turn, I'm going to squish that bicyclist. And the person behind you like, come on, dude, honk, honk, and like giving you the finger. And it's like, that's kind of like what being a referee is like. You've got, in many cases, more information and more knowledge, and a great concept from a book I just read, which I'm a book nerd, but, Never Split the Difference by a former FBI negotiator, which is one of my favorite books of the year. Just the idea of like, oftentimes when you think someone else is crazy, when you're like, this guy's crazy, what's wrong with him?
What the hell is he doing? Like,
what is this guy's problem? It's often that craziness. I talk about crazy pills in the book. That craziness often comes from the idea that you just simply have more information than the other person. And can you not assume the worst, even if they're assuming the worst out of you? This ref is biased. This ref is out to get us. This idiot, doesn't know how to drive. And that guy behind me, I had more information than he did. He was focusing on his techno music and I was focusing on, there's a dude over there just had a seizure and is bleeding on the sidewalk, and I'm going to flip around and call 911 and get this guy help. Yeah. But what's the natural response? This dude drives up, flipped me the bird, and I'm like, screw you, man. Like, but how many times have you, had that issue in traffic, or somebody cuts in front of you in line, or somebody, and a great concept, which I learned about a few years ago, is the idea of Hanlon's razor, which is becoming very popular now. I saw Ferris talking about it in a newsletter like a few months ago. Just this idea of like, don't assume malice when the easier answer is often neglect. Yeah. Don't assume, how many times you had it where, like you're waiting on a friend or somebody, and they just kind of ghost you, and you're looking at your phone. I was supposed to meet with this person. Like, did I do something? Did I say something wrong? Did I do something wrong? Did I forget their birthday? Last time I was at their house, did I do something wrong? Put on their carpet? Did I screw up? Is it me? And it's like, and what happens? They're like, oh man, sorry, my phone died. Sorry, I lost my phone charger. It's some innocent thing. It's neglect. Yeah. And how many times do referees and umpires are like, this person sucks, this person hates me, this person's being a jerk, and it's like, it's not malice. They don't hate you. They just don't know as much as you do. They haven't read the rule book. They haven't got the training you have. And so there's this idea of, true confidence. True confidence, what I talk about at the end of the book, is true confidence is never having to try and win an argument. True confidence is never having to saying, I'm right and you're wrong, or to change somebody's mind. And how many times do people start an argument or start a conversation in a meeting and be like, my goal in this is to change your mind.
Change everyone. Yeah.
It's not, you're not going to change it. You're not going to change it. In many cases, one concept that I love to talk about is sometimes the only way to win an actual argument with a player is just to not lose it. Most people don't understand that, and I didn't understand that for a long time. I make this super close call a few months ago in a flag football game. Again, I'm a referee, so I always come back to reffing. Super close call. This guy's reaching the ball out. I call a touchdown, and the flag is pulled as he's crossing the goal line. And we have three flags in our league. You've got a flag belt, 1, 2, 3 flags. They pulled the flag. He gets a touchdown. He's got one flag left. I'm like, oh crap. He's got one flag left. The second flag. Where's the second flag? The second flag is back, and I literally take away a touchdown on 4th down, and I'm like. I'm pretty sure that I don't say to him, but I'm like, I'm pretty sure I messed up this call.
Sure.
I'm taking away a touchdown from a player on 4th down. How do you think that player responded? That player was like, first off, you called a touchdown. You can't take it back. I'm like, I take it back. You actually were pulled here, and the second flag was pulled in the end zone. Sorry if I'm getting too inside football for your viewers, but hopefully I'll bring it back around. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I boned the call, but I'm really confident about how it went, and 10 minutes later.
Yeah, he's still there, right, arguing.
The player comes back to me and says, "Oh, two of my teammates said the flag was definitely pulled short." And I'm like, oh gosh. By the way, that does not happen very often. But the only way sometimes to win the argument is to not lose it in the moment. And if you do what we call the killer comeback, which is what everybody wants to do, I call it the door slam, right? Most people don't remember the full conversation. They remember a peak moment, and they remember the ending. Chip and Dan Heath talk about in this Power Moments, where it's like most people have an experience, how you create experience.
And then at the very end.
They remember the peak. You go to Disney World. They remember Space Mountain. And remember how the trip ends, your vacation with your family. So most people remember the end of what you say. And most people love that door slam moment. I'm going to slam the door in your face, and I'm going to say this thing that's going to be like, boom, put you in your place. Yeah. It's like, Mike, your numbers are wrong. This report is wrong. And if you think it's right, then you're crazy to think that. Yeah. Door slam. Versus, Mike, this report is wrong. The numbers are wrong, and if you think the numbers are right, I'm a little bit worried we're not looking at the same information. Yeah. I kind of said the same thing. The first was a door slam, killer comeback. The second at least left an opportunity to say, I think, and what did I say? I think, and also I'm worried. I'm worried about you. And I'm worried about you having the wrong numbers, but I'm worried about you. But how many times, and we have a great saying in refereeing an umpire, like if it feels good to say, do not say it.
If it feels really good, it's probably wrong.
And again, getting back to, husbands and wives and boyfriends and girlfriends, and you've got that idea, and it forms in the back of your head. It's like it grows, and you're like, ooh, I cannot wait to say this. I cannot wait to slam the door in their face. I cannot wait to say, and if you think that, you're insane. I cannot wait to come back with the sarcasm and the satire, and I can't wait to come back with the door slam. And if it feels really good to say and you can't wait to say it, don't say it. Don't say it in life. Don't say it to your wife. Don't say it to your husband. Don't say it on the field, because that 5 seconds of you feeling good will lead to tons of long-term regret, and you can't take it back. And that's just an idea for reffing and for life. Yeah. But most people are just used to, hey, again, that beginner brain tricks you and says, oh man, that you can feel it. You can, like that person cuts you off in traffic. Ooh, yeah. Maybe they cut you off in traffic, Hanlon's razor style, because they're trying to rush their kid to the emergency room.
Yeah, you don't know, right?
You just don't know. And it's harder, and it's a little bit lonely, but also being a ref is lonely when you have to be like, hey man, I know I made the right call here. I'm the only person who saw this call, but I'm not going to lose it by trying to slam the door on you. That guy's short of the goal line. I could have said, look, I'm the referee. I make the calls. Just no more arguing, or I'm going to flag you. That's your first warning. I used to be that referee, and most referees end up being that way. There's this idea, I think, that comes out a lot. I talk about it briefly. You'll see it a lot, kind of the idea of defender comments and the idea of what I call an honor call. We call it a Saving Private Ryan call, where, again, I'm a football guy. We've got to play at the end zone, and a guy just smashes a lady on the arm. It's a 5-yard penalty. He didn't, the ball's already gone. I don't call pass interference. The guy goes ballistic. He's throwing out, we call it spaghetti arguments. Where you throw out 15. She ran it to me. I was just going for the ball. It wasn't my fault. I was looking back for the ball, and like everyone in the field's like kind of mocking the guy and being like, well, which one is it, man? But spaghetti. And you get caught. You get caught with your hand in the cookie jar. Yeah. People just throw out as many excuses and spaghetti arguments as possible. And this guy is like beside himself. He comes up halftime. He's still, ref, like, what am I supposed to do there? Like, how am I supposed to? It's like, and it's not about the call. The person doesn't care about the penalty. The person cares about their honor. The person cares about,
tell me look bad, right?
Tell me I'm a good person. Tell me you believe, and we talk about pre-diffusing a situation, which you can do maybe with your kids, maybe in business, definitely on the flag football field. Hey, look, when we have a sport, basketball, soccer, flag football, there's contact. A little bit of contact, you don't call it. A lot of contact, you call it. You call an elbow, you call a forearm, you call someone low on their shoulder, and you call that elbow. You can just, a lot of times we call it an escape hatch. It's just, look, hey, you got him with the elbow, but I know you didn't mean to do it on purpose. And they're like, that's all. Versus they'll come back and argue over and over and over again because they don't care about the penalty or the explanation of the rule. They care about, tell me, Saving Private Ryan style, tell me I'm a good person. Tell me I'm worth it. Tell me you believe me that I didn't elbow that person on purpose. And maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But in sports, especially rec sports, most people don't go out to hurt people. And that's Hanlon's razor. Don't assume malice when it's really just neglect. When someone really just messed up or made a mistake. And referees, look, it's not my fault. You elbowed him. Why am I giving you an escape? Why am I? But if you have that true confidence, where you don't worry about having to win the argument or fighting battles that never need to be fought in the first place. You can just pre-diffuse a situation with your kid. Hey, I know you didn't mean to do it on purpose, but here's what happened. It's not cool. Hey, I don't even mean to do it on purpose, but your elbow caught that player, so it's going to be -5 from the spot. And when that guy came over at halftime and was still saying, ref, how do I avoid this penalty? It was really just, dude, it's okay. You didn't mean to do it on purpose.
We know
Thanks,
that.
ref. Gone. Never heard about it ever again.
Yeah.
So that idea of Hanlon's razor and that idea of pre-diffusing and that idea of honor, how many times have arguments and conversations just kept going over and over again, and it's not about the specifics. It's not about the report or the stats or the KPIs. It's just about, it feels like you're questioning my honor. Just tell me you think I'm a good person. Just tell me you think I didn't do that on purpose. Yeah. And it's that sometimes that's all it is.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's really good stuff, man.
Yeah, I got 15,000 stories from the field, but hopefully
I know that's what the great thing is. That's one. That's one of the things I liked about the book is all of the good stories. Because when I was in college, I was an intramural ref for a couple years, right? So it was, and I quite enjoyed it. It was fun, and I was okay. I wasn't great or anything, but it's just so good to hear these stories because they're real. You can see all these stories happening. Like if you've ever played any intramural sports and things I play basketball obviously and stuff. So it's just great to see these stories and hear the real stories. And from your standpoint, the referee, it's always interesting because most people never take a perspective from the referee's standpoint. It's always from a player or a coach or a fan, right?
Yeah. It's just the joke is it's the turtles all the way down, and I kind of end the idea of it's people all the way down.
Yeah.
Whatever the rule book, whatever the sport, it's always people. And people are people think they're so unique, but when it comes to conflict and getting caught doing something, they're really all the same. They're really all the same. Nobody admits that they're wrong. Nobody wants to get caught and called out in front of their friends and family and coworkers. It's really all the same. So how can you deal with that idea of just it's people all the way down? And it's hopefully the idea of instead of there's a ton of books out there about here's how to be a youth basketball referee. And because we started with communication, I tried to go across multiple sports and say, I don't know your rule book. I don't know your handbook. I don't know your employee manual for your company. But I feel like after 18 years of Underdog, we know communication. It's all the same. It's people all the way down. People just react certain ways to certain situations, and you're going to trigger one of the core ideas that I feel like most people don't understand because they use it so much themselves. They can't sometimes it's called the curse of knowledge. They can't see the forest for the trees. We talk about curse of knowledge a lot in the book. Is this idea of self-serving bias. And, I was talking about it this morning with somebody who was staying with us. The idea of my kid did good on this math test because my kid's a genius.
Of course.
But my kid did bad on the math test because you're a sucky teacher and you're not doing the right lesson plan to accommodate my brilliant kid.
Yeah.
Hey, or how about, hey, we won the championship because we're awesome at sports, so we make great plays. Yeah. But we lost the championship because the referees suck. That's self-serving bias. Again, we ask the question, what makes you so different? What makes you so special? You're not going to change self-serving bias. That's been there for hundreds there's probably cavemen back in the day who were my club works because I'm awesome, but my club didn't kill a woolly mammoth or something. I don't know, I'm making this stuff up, but the idea is that you're not going to change self-serving bias. You're not changing people's natural reaction to say, I did this because I'm good, but this bad thing happened because you're bad. You're not going to change that, so you might as well start practicing ways to accommodate that. Yeah. And this idea of the curse of knowledge crops up because people, know these rules. They have this extra knowledge. If you're the boss, you definitely have the curse of knowledge. And you're just this is so obvious. Why doesn't everyone else see this? And that's where the Hanlon razor idea kicks in. Well, they just don't know as much as you do. But if you talk to them and throw the rule book in their face and get mad at them because they don't know as much as you do, then you've already lost the conversation. You've already lost the argument. Even if there is an argument. But you can't win the argument. So stop arguing and just practice on not doing stupid stuff that doesn't work. and trying to diffuse conflict, because conflict's there, and part of life is just dealing with conflict. People are going to get pissed off. People are going to blame you, whether it's on the referee field or whether it's in life. People are going to blame you for stuff, and that sucks. And I wish they didn't, but you're not going to change that. Yeah. And the more you realize that, the easier it is sometimes to deal with. And sometimes you're like, yeah, there it is, self-serving bias again. There it is.
Yeah. And so Sean, how is so the book's been out what, 2 weeks, 10 days? It's been
give or take 2 days. Yeah. 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. And how's it gone? Like, I mean, obviously you're probably talking to people on, doing things like this, and like, are you excited about this part of it? Are you looking forward to more of this? Like, what's your thoughts about, like, how to?
I love talking and teaching. 2 things. One, I would say is I was very happy with a few people who read it, including I think you, and said this is a lot more than reffing. That was always my dream. I didn't really promise it. I kind of vaguely mentioned, like, hey, you know what? This is really good for being a referee, and maybe it'll help in your regular life. But a lot of people read it and been like, this is a business book. And like, if that happens, that's great. I was trying to start with recreational referees and umpires, but if people see that at business, that's been happening so far organically, that's very exciting. The second thing is, I gave a talk, a week ago in front of an association of 300 soccer referees. Sure. And I am not a soccer dude. And I refed one game. I've refed like 6,000 games in my life, but like one game of soccer. And I'm not a big soccer person. I understand it. I watch the Women's World Cup. I appreciate soccer. I watch the English Premier League sometimes. But the idea that crowd, I was so worried about, they're going to think I'm a fraud. I don't know soccer. Sure. Penalty kicks and in the box and but it was just so well received, and so many people were like, the sport doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, it's
sport doesn't matter. The rule book doesn't matter. I don't need to know what your rule book is. I don't need to know what your sport is. Could it work for hockey? Could it work for soccer? Could it work for anything? Could it work in the boardroom? Maybe. I hope so. That's the exciting part to me, is when I go talking to soccer people, I'm like, hey, listen, I'm not a soccer person, but I tell a story and everybody in the crowd is nodding, and it's a story about somebody at a kickball game. Yeah. And there's a lot of those moments, and if you look at it and you say, like, well, I'm never going to be a kickball umpire in my life, this is stupid, then you might not get a lot out of the book. But if you look at it and say, like, hey, this is actually just a natural reaction to conflict that people have, and take the kickball and flag football and softball and hockey and basketball and soccer out of it. This is people. This is conflict. This is teaching. This is communication. That's the part that gets me really excited, where people are actually kind of gravitating towards it because it's just really about communication, teaching, and people.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, hey, I want to end it up, but you are. I think you've got. I just said, like, I'm a huge fan of this, not because it's a ref book, because it's a book that can be used in what I would say everyday life, and helping diffuse conflict and helping build relationships and help you be a better manager or just a better human being, right? Yeah. That is awesome. So I say, well done, man. Good job on this. I'm happy to see it. I'm glad it's finally out. I've been talking to you for I don't know how long and talking about this book, so it's good to see it.
You were a big help, by the way. Everyone should know who's watching this that Mike was a big help. And so maybe you got a side hustle as like, a business coach, like I started reading $1 Trillion Coach yesterday. So maybe you're the next $1 Trillion Coach where, because there were so many moments when you're writing a book where you're like, okay, this is the part where I talk about, I gave it a try and it didn't work out.
Work out.
The time to write it. And there was many moments where Mike was the guy who kept me going, and so I appreciate that very much. Not just for having me on here, but for actually, that's why you got the big shout out at the end in the book, because you helped me with it on.
Yeah. I'm in the book, man. I'm in the book.
Yeah. I do hope that there's something, a little bit of something in it for everybody. And if you're kind of a shy person like I've been for most of my life, or a little bit introvert, or a poor communicator, and you felt like you kind of always got ignored, you always kind of said the wrong thing, I hope maybe it helps, because there's just going to be situations in life where you're going to have to deal with conflict. You have to deal with situations where you have more information than somebody else, and how you're going to act. And you're going to have to tell people good people bad news.
Yeah, bad news.
Whether it's you committed a pass interference call, or whether it's something else bad, you're going to have to tell good people bad news. You have to tell people things that they don't want. That's kind of big moments in life, I feel like, come down to that. Big moments where you have to communicate, and maybe you're alone and you saw something nobody else sees, or you feel something no one else feels. And if you just try and strong arm it and say, look, hey, I'm the ref, I'm in charge here. If you don't like it, go back to your huddle. You don't go talk to your coach. Like that's so easy to do, but that's what we've already been doing, and doesn't work. So let's try a different way, and maybe that different way of communicating on the field can help deal with the referee shortage across the country, but also maybe can help just communication in general when you want to be a better communicator, no matter what your sports background is, no matter what your business situation is. If you're an entrepreneur junkie like me and you're always like struggle with management and, complimenting people and praising people and all these things, I'm hoping that there's a little bit of that for everybody in the book.
Yeah.
By the way, it makes a great stocking stuffer.
Sure.
It's a great Hanukkah gift. You should buy one for all 8 nights of Hanukkah, and it makes a great stocking stuffer. If you're like us, Hanukkah and Christmas.
That's good.
there's some bonus content. Have we shown the book, by the way? I feel like I'm a bad promoter. I said, okay, there we go. Jeez, I'm like, show the cover. Jeez, I got to move some product here. Come on, let's go. Come on.
No worries, man. Yeah. Well, that's great. Like I said, you've been awesome. Great guest. I just quite enjoyed this. How long have we been? 50 minutes. 50 minutes and 10 seconds. So we've been on there a while.
I told you we were going to run out of time. I didn't even get to my favorite. Thank you much for having me. It's super fun. I love talking about it, and I hope people check out the book. And I hope if there's more YouTube videos, if you the body Q stuff we started talking about, there's a video on our YouTube channel if you want to check that out in more detail. If that's interesting stuff to you, But check it out. And if you want to email me questions or email me stories. The thing I love the most is when somebody's like, hey, I took your fake diffuser thing, or I took your defender comment or your honor call or your Saving Private Ryan call, and I used it here, and like that's what makes it all worthwhile. Like there's not a lot of money in selling books on Amazon. No, so I'm sorry to break the news to anybody.
Yeah. There's actually hardly any money in publishing book.
Yeah, and we started off pretty good. We had Jenny Finch for a couple of days as the #1 ranking in softball, but Jenny Finch is so good. She's now clearly way on top of us, and we'll probably never catch her again. But so far, so good. So it's been a really cool experience so far.
Cool. You're awesome, man. Okay, man. Well, be safe. Have a great week. Keep it up. Keep talking to people about it, and you're awesome. So I'll talk to you soon, and probably see you at the gym.
Oh yeah, call and make sure you call him like you see him.
Okay, always, man. Take care, everyone. Have a safe week. Have an amazing day. Be safe. We'll see you on Thursday. Bye-bye.